Tim Burton movies. You either love them or you hate them. But I really guess that depends on how much you like Johnny Depp and Helen Bonham Carter. Besides Tim Burton single-handedly being responsible for creating the emo girl scene, he's also made a lot of freaking movies. Recently, I released a video where we ranked the best Halloween movies of all time, and you'd be surprised to learn that there was several Tim Burton movies on that ranking list. Of course, being the absolute tier list slut that I am, it got me wondering, what are the best Tim Burton movies? That's right, you guys already know the drill. Today we are ranking every single Tim Burton movie. We got our tier list right here. We got our tiers: best tier, iconic, actually good, dumpster fire, and haven't seen. You guys know the drill. You know how these goes. At the end of the day, these videos are just my opinion. So if you disagree with me on the ordering of this list or the ranking of these Tim Burton movies, please let me know in the comment section down below. Without further ado, let's get started with what I think is one of the most iconic Tim Burton movies. Definitely one of the most iconic Tim Burton movies from my childhood, James and the Giant Peach. James and the Giant Peach was a stop-motion movie, a Tim Burton classic. This man loves his stop motion, I guess, mixed with live action acting, I should say. This was a book that was turned into this children's movie. I say children's movie, but this movie is actually horrifying. Low-key, James and the Giant Peach might be Tim Burton's scariest movie. It's up there for sure. This movie left, like, millennial kids everywhere absolutely traumatized. This movie is amazing. I actually forget that this is a Tim Burton movie because I was really young, obviously, when I first saw this movie, so the concept of like a Tim Burton film didn't really exist in my mind. And I think at this point in the 90s when this movie was released, the kind of like Tim Burton trope hadn't been established yet. Tim Burton very much has a creepy style that he constantly kind of sticks with. There are these certain themes that Tim Burton is very much like well known for. You can spot a Tim Burton movie, kind of this quirky, creepy, horrifying, but like not like too scary, not like jump scare scary, more like creepy scary. And he loves to reuse a lot of the same actors like Johnny Depp, Helen Bonham Carter, Michael Keaton, Danny DeVito, and like several others. I think that James and the Giant Peach has to go into best category for me. It's just like peak Tim Burton. It's been a little while since I've rewatched this movie. I've only rewatched it, I think, like once as an adult. But from what I remember, it still holds up. I could be completely wrong, but I think it has to go in best here. Next, we have Alice Through the Looking Glass. Now, this is a interesting movie. It has all of the Tim Burton tropes, but obviously his take on the Alice in Wonderland story. Most people are just familiar with kind of the base Alice in Wonderland story, but there actually is a lot more to the story. It was multiple book series. There's obviously this like dragon creature. I'm forgetting what it's called. It's got some weird, quirky name. But anyway, this was kind of an attempt to look at the kind of bigger Alice in Wonderland scale. I actually didn't mind this movie. It's not like amazing. There's a lot of issues with it, but I think that Johnny Depp as the Mad Hatter is really good. Johnny Depp is interesting because he's almost kind of like typecast himself into these like zany, crazy-esque characters, obviously with pirates, Alice in Wonderland, Edward Scissorhands, which we're going to get to, other movies we're going to get to, right? It seems like he very much has kind of a lane that he's almost put himself into. I actually think that this movie is actually good. I don't think it's as dumpster fiery as maybe other people might think it is. Maybe it's just because I have a fondness for Alice in Wonderland, but I'm going to put it in actually good for now. Okay, so I'm actually a dumbass. I thought that this was the first Alice in Wonderland that Tim Burton made. This is actually the second one. In reality, this movie is a hot dumpster fire. While it is fun, it is definitely a dumpster fire, so I actually misranked this movie on accident. Next up, we have Wednesday. Yes, I know this isn't a movie, but I felt like I had to put this on the list because it came out, recently in the last couple of years, and people are absolutely raving about it. Well, aside for the few people that have some issues with it. All that being said, Wednesday is very good. It reminds me a lot of the Sabrina show that came out recently, the kind of reboot of I think it was Netflix, I can't remember, of the Sabrina show. I think it's better than that, though. Yeah, it's good. I don't really know what to say about Wednesday. I think that everyone thinks it's good. If anything, it might be a little too overhyped because everyone kind of got on the hype bandwagon, but it is pretty good. I'll put it in iconic for now because it's probably the best thing that Tim Burton has worked on in quite a few years. Next up, we have Batman, a classic. We're going to go ahead and do the Batman movies. I think all 3 in a row here. The 3 Tim Burton Batman movies that obviously if you're an 80s or a 90s kid, you're very familiar with these Batman movies featuring Michael Keaton. They have the kind of iconic, crazy Batman villains. Obviously, the Nolan movies that we're used to are a lot different type of Batman than these. These were a lot more kind of zany, weird, still kind of dark, but a lot more like comedic relief. Out of the Michael Keaton, Tim Burton Batman movies, though, this one is the best. It definitely is the best. I believe Jack Nicholson plays the Joker in this movie, and he's pretty good. Michael Keaton's Batman is not bad. It's not horrible. It's just a very specific type of Batman. For that, I think it's actually good, and it's definitely the best of the 3 Michael Keaton, Tim Burton Batmans. Next, we have Batman Returns. Now, this movie... I love this movie, but it's not good. This movie is like a classic Tim Burton dumpster fire, but actually in a good way. I mean, the cast in this movie was pretty crazy. It has Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman. Danny DeVito was the Penguin in this movie. Christopher Walken was in this movie. Danny DeVito's Penguin is definitely what like comes to mind. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna change my mind. I think it's actually good. I think it is actually good. It's quirky, it's zany, and if you've only seen like the modern Batman movies, you might like not be a fan of it at all. But if you can kind of like strip your mind away of the Dark Knight movies and watch these movies in a vacuum, there is something very enjoyable about them. And honestly, the Danny DeVito Penguin scenes are hilarious. Finally, we have Batman Forever. This one goes in dumpster fire. It's hilarious to watch, but compared to all of the other ones, it's like not good. Jim Carrey is the Riddler, which is absolutely wild. Yeah, Tommy Lee Jones is in here as Harvey Dent. They also switched Batmans in this. Wait, is this a Tim Burton movie? Am I tripping? Tim Burton directed these 2 Batman movies, and then he produced this one. But yes, this one's a cluster. The most iconic thing is probably Jim Carrey as the Riddler and Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face. But still, very, very wild, weird, strange Batman movie. Next up, we have another stop-motion Tim Burton movie, Frankenweenie. If you watched the Halloween tier list, you know that I love this movie. This movie, I think, does all of the good things that like Tim Burton stop-motion movies do, especially ones that are more Halloween-themed. This is very much a Halloween, like, kind of themed movie in the same vein as Nightmare Before Christmas. But this movie is great. It's the story of Frankenstein retold with a man's pet, basically. And I'm here for it. I love it. It's wholesome. I love pet movies. They put me in my feelings. I think that this movie is probably... Ooh, where are we going to put it? I think I'm going to put it in best, honestly. I really, really like it. It's very good. It's one of my favorite Tim Burton movies. It's one of my favorite Halloween movies. I put it in S tier, I think, in my Halloween tier list. I'm gonna put it in best for now. Next up, we have Beetlejuice, another Michael Keaton, Tim Burton movie from the early 90s. This movie was also on our Halloween tier list. This is a classic. This movie's super zany. It's weird. It tells the story of this married couple. One of the Baldwins, I believe, is the husband that recently die after starting their home in this house, and they haunt this house. A new family comes into the house, and they are basically haunting it, trying to scare them. The movie's super zany. It is very much a comedy. Michael Keaton's performance is actually very, very good on Beetlejuice. This like super wild, very crude spirit. Where do we put this? I think Beetlejuice is going to go into iconic. It may come down into actually good. I like this movie. Obviously, like from a cinematography like review of a movie, it's not like the best movie ever, but it's fun and it's very like classic Tim Burton. And as far as like Tim Burton movie goes, it's a lot more like on the weird comedy side, almost like Rocky Horror-esque in how like weird it is, as opposed to some of the other movies. Next up, we have 9. I actually always forget about this Tim Burton movie, but I do remember that it had Elijah Wood as the playing the main character. This movie has like a mystery that runs through like its entire plot. Our main characters are these like weird like fabric doll creatures that have these numbers sewn into their backs. I didn't like this movie. I thought it was a dumpster fire. Maybe I need to rewatch it to give it another opinion, but I've seen it a couple of times, and I even remember when I saw it, you know, as like a young adult in high school, I was just like, this movie is weird. I don't get it. Maybe it just went over my head. I need to rewatch it, but I think it's going to go in dumpster fire. I know this movie has fans, but yeah, I don't know. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of 9, if you watched this movie back in like 2009 when it came out. Yes. Next up, we have easily one of my favorite Tim Burton movies, Big Fish. This movie has Ewan McGregor as the main character. How would I even describe Big Fish as a movie? Big Fish tells the story of a frustrated son trying to determine the fact from fiction in his dying father's life. The story being kind of like this. It's almost like American like myth anthology. I family owned this movie on DVD, so I watched it like a million times when I was a kid. That's probably why I like it so much. I also like Ewan McGregor a lot. This movie goes into S tier for me. Pretty simple. Next up, we have Cabin Boy. I actually haven't seen this movie. I didn't know anything about it when I was putting this list together. This movie came out in '94. It was co-produced by Tim Burton, which is probably why I haven't seen it and why it didn't get the, like Tim Burton, like seal of like a classic, maybe like Tim Burton movie, because I guess it technically wasn't a Tim Burton movie. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of Cabin Boy. I'll probably add it to my list of movies to watch. Next up, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. This movie is a Tim Burton dumpster fire. Again, we kind of have this return of Johnny Depp in this like typecast, zany kind of like mad genius almost character. But like this movie wasn't horrible. It was a dumpster fire in a good way and a bad way. Depp's performance is very predictable, from how you would think, Johnny Depp would play Willy Wonka. This movie isn't bad by any means, but I think it's just very predictable, and some of the changes they made from the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, it just seemed like kind of like why, why did they make those changes? Moving on, another stop motion Tim Burton classic, Corpse Bride. I actually love this movie. I love this movie. I'm going to put it probably in iconic. I maybe even move it to best because I really, really, really like it. We'll put it at the top of iconic. Classic Tim Burton at it again. Stop motion, creepy vibes. Johnny Depp is the main character. How many characters in like the Tim Burton animated universe have this kind of similar, like very gaunt, like big dark hair-esque look? It's just classic Tim Burton, Johnny Depp. This movie tells the story of a groom who runs away from his wedding and takes his wedding ring and accidentally puts it on a dead bride's hand who had been buried. I actually learned that this movie and its story seems to be very much based off of a like Jewish cultural short story, which is actually really dark and makes the movie have a lot of like darker undertones. But yeah, it's amazing. It's classic Tim Burton stop motion. It's really, really good. It's one of my all-time favorite Halloween movies. Of course, Fry is very good, very wholesome. Next up, we have the remake of Dumbo. I actually haven't seen this movie. I haven't seen a lot of the Disney live actions. I feel like if I was gonna give a remake of any Disney movie to Tim Burton, I feel like it would have been Pinocchio. Even though the Pinocchio remake was also a little creepy. Yeah, I don't know. Disney's lost the plot. I don't really consume their content by any means. Haven't seen this movie. Let me know what you thought of Dumbo in the comment section down below. From what I saw the reviews, it was just like a, 70% esque rated approval movie. Next up, we have Ed Wood. I also have not seen this movie, but I want to. This also features Johnny Depp. This movie is a biographical comedic drama telling the story of legendary filmmaker Ed Wood, played by Johnny Depp. I need to watch this movie. I actually didn't even know about this movie until recently. I have no idea how good it is. Let's check on Rotten Tomatoes, shall we? This movie actually has really good reviews, so I'll need to check it out. I don't think it was the most popular Tim Burton movie, but it seemed to do okay at the box office. But yeah, I need to check this one out. This might be a Tim Burton classic gem that's hidden away from his early career that we don't know about. Next up, we have Edward Scissorhands. I mean, this is like as iconic as like Tim Burton gets, I think. Actually, it might even go into S tier. Edward Scissorhands is kind of the classic Tim Burton, like, gothic romance kind of, like, drama film. It tells the story of a young man, Edward, who has scissor blades for hands, and how he is mistreated and, viewed as like a freak in his community, and he eventually finds love. As much as I'd love to meme on this movie and the fact that, like, scene girls, punk girls everywhere absolutely, like, obsess over this movie, it is very, very good. It's creepy. It's weird. When I was a kid, it scared the shit out of me. As an adult, I find it very wholesome. It makes my cold, icy heart feel warm, emotional, fuzzy things. I think I'm gonna put it in the best for now. We'll see. It's very, very good. You'll see a reoccurring theme here that a lot of Tim Burton's best works came from the 90s, and I think it was because this was before he became kind of like almost like a caricature of himself, right? Oh god, I forgot about this movie. Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. I mean, dumpster fire, man. While some of this movie is fun, this movie is like epitome of dumpster fire. Need I say more than the title? Speaking of dumpster fire, we have Mars Attack. This is also probably one of Tim Burton's like zaniest, weirdest movies. This movie came out in 1996 and is like another version of the classic, like, alien invasion of Earth and of America story. I actually can't believe that they got Jack Nicholson to be in this movie, but I guess he is really crazy, just as crazy as Tim Burton. I don't really know what to say about this movie. It's really weird, very zany. It's like very much like a movie that is a product of its time from the 90s. It's going into dumpster fire at the very least. This movie is one of those movies that just feels like I'm watching like a fever dream throughout it. Oh god, another movie that I actually forgot about. Tim Burton's remake of Planet of the Apes. This is a movie that I feel like is better left forgotten, especially in the like anthology of the Planet of the Apes series, as Planet of the Apes is like classic sci-fi, right? The original series is very good from the 60s, and obviously the like modern remakes with James Franco are also really good. This movie, though, not good. It has Mark Wahlberg in it too. I actually completely forgot. This movie's a dumpster fire, not in a good way, maybe compared to like some of the other dumpster fire movies. Better left forgotten is Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes, in my opinion. Moving on to the final three movies, we have Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow. Obviously, this is the live action of Disney's animated Sleepy Hollow, which is an animated version of a short story from a long time ago. Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow is a lot more fleshed out. I mean, it would have to be a movie that's well over an hour long. Johnny Depp again playing Ichabod Crane. This movie is a lot more like dark gothic horror-y than the original, like especially compared to like the Disney animated movie. I rated this movie low on my Halloween tier list, but I think as a Tim Burton movie goes, it's actually pretty good. I might have been a little harsh on this movie, especially compared to some of the other Tim Burton movies as we see in Dumpster Fire. I will say that Sleepy Hollow, in my opinion, is probably better than all of these movies. Actually, it's not probably. It is better than all of these movies, for sure. It actually is probably better than Alice in the Looking Glass, honestly. Final two, next up, one of the most iconic, I think, Tim Burton movies, Sweeney Todd. The Demon Barber of Sweeney Todd. This is the musical version of the original musical, which was written, I think, in like 1979 or something along those lines. It's very, very good. Again, Johnny Depp, Helen Bonham Carter, classic Tim Burton synergy. I'm not gonna lie, I get the memes. I get why people meme on Tim Burton, meme on Johnny Depp, but I will say that I love Johnny Depp and I love Helen Bonham Carter, and I think that their chemistry together is very, very solid. To me, I think this has to go into best tier. I'm pretty sure it's very, very good. I also do enjoy musicals. Sweeney Todd is a very good musical. This is a solid musical. Obviously, some of the singing isn't the best. It's not like Johnny Depp is the best singer ever, but that really doesn't matter because we're going for like a certain type of feeling when it comes to Sweeney Todd, and I think that they get it. I think that they knock it out of the park. They nail it on the head. Alan Rickman's in it as well, and he's absolutely amazing. I love Alan Rickman. Rest in peace, my man. Sweeney Todd has to go in best. The more I say it, the more I believe that it has to go in best. Finally, last but not least, we have probably the most iconic Tim Burton movie ever, the most notable Tim Burton movie ever. The movie responsible for creating goth scene kids everywhere, as well as for inspiring Blink-182, Nightmare Before Christmas, Jack and Sally, The Adventures of Our Boy Jack Skellington. I mean, this is really where it all kind of began for like the stop motion Tim Burton movies. Like, if you look at the other stop motion Tim Burton movies, especially the ones we have here, Frankenweenie and Corpse Bride, I mean, you really see like you know, all of the things that makes like iconic classic stop motion Tim Burton, like that was taken from Nightmare Before Christmas. I watched this very recently. I talked about this in the Halloween tier list. It still holds up. It's still very, very good. I think it has to go in best tier. I really do think it does. It's really where it all started in terms of like Tim Burton stop motion. This is one of the best Halloween movies of all time. Like probably like, you know, a top 3 Halloween movie of all time. It's also a top 3 Christmas movie of all time. How many movies can you say that double as a Christmas movie and a Halloween movie? It's just great. I will admit that I do think fans overhype it maybe a little bit, but I do think that it is amazing. It is a classic, and it is one of the best works that Tim Burton has ever produced. Okay, and when things are all said and done, here is my finalized tier list. Starting in best tier in order, we have James and the Giant Peach, Sweeney Todd, Edward Scissorhands, Nightmare Before Christmas, and Big Fish. I think maybe some people might disagree with me on putting Big Fish into the like highest of the best here. For me, this is very much personal bias. I love this movie. I grew up with this movie. I stand by the fact that I think that it is very, very good. I mean, James and the Giant Peach and Nightmare Before Christmas are probably 2 of the best stop motion movies like ever. Easily 2 of the best Tim Burton movies. James and the Giant Peach, in my opinion, is the best Tim Burton movie. And as far as his live action movie goes, I mean, Edward Scissorhands and Sweeney Todd, it's just classic Tim Burton all the way around. Johnny Depp, Helen Bonham Carter, Johnny Depp playing this very classic. I mean, these movies are very similar in a lot of ways, but also very different, right? But to me, I think that this is like classic top tier Tim Burton. Moving on to the next tier, we have iconic Tim Burton movies, starting with Frankenweenie, Corpse Bride, Beetlejuice, and then the Wednesday TV series, which I do think, you know, years from now we'll look back and be like, yes, this is iconic. This is an iconic Tim Burton production, in my opinion. But I guess we'll just have to see how this show pans out. It was really hard for me not to put Frankenweenie in best tier. I love this movie. It's one of my favorite Halloween movies. It's one of my favorite Tim Burton movies. My favorite stop motion movies. It's very, very wholesome. I love me some creepy Halloween movies, especially when the pets are the main character. Next up, we have the actually good tier, starting with Batman, and then Batman Returns, followed by Sleepy Hollow, and Alice Through the Looking Glass. Possibly a controversial pick that some people could say is a hot dumpster fire. I think that's a completely fair argument. I enjoyed this movie. I like Alice in Wonderland. I liked kind of the Tim Burton effect on Alice in Wonderland, and I think Johnny Depp is a good Mad Hatter. I also think you could argue these Batman movies into the iconic tier. I very much do love them. They are a bit of a dumpster fire, but in all of the good ways. And I think at the very least, they are iconic Tim Burton movies. Moving on to the dumpster fire tier, we have Mars Attack, Batman Forever 9, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, and Planet of the Apes. In general, not all of these movies are like horrible, but they are all in their own ways absolute dumpster fires, followed up with the haven't seen movies of Ed Wood, Cabin Boy, and Dumbo. Ed Wood being the only movie of these movies that I actually think that I'm going to sit down and make time to watch. As always, guys, like I said, this is just my opinion. If you disagree with me, then let me know in the comment section down below. Let me know your favorite Tim Burton movies, as well as your least favorites. If you enjoyed the video, learn something new, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Please click one of the videos on screen now for more content. And as always, I hope to see you guys in the next one. Drink your water, hug your mother. Until next time, peace, love, adu.